The Last Protocol. The United Earth Military Tribunal towered over New Shanghai, like a steel giant passing judgment on the city below. Inside its halls, Captain Sarah Chen stood at attention, her decorated uniform feeling more like a prison jumpsuit with each passing moment. The charge was severe. Violation of Protocol Omega, the military's absolute command structure. The punishment: death by neural dissolution. But Sarah's eyes weren't on the stern-faced judges or the holographic displays of her crimes. They were fixed on the crystalline being floating beside her defense podium, Nexus, her companion of 3 years, whose faceted surface rippled with pulses of blue light that matched her own heartbeat. Captain Chen. Admiral Harrison's voice cut through the tension like a plasma blade. You stand accused of disobeying a direct order during the Battle of Proxima Centauri, resulting in the loss of strategic advantage and the deaths of countless soldiers. How do you plead? Sarah's throat tightened. The memories of that day crashed over her like a tsunami. 6 months earlier, Proxima Centauri Defense Station. The alarms blared through the station's corridors, their piercing wail mixing with the thunder of boots on metal gratings. Sarah sprinted toward the command center, her neural implant already feeding her tactical data. The crystalline fleet had appeared without warning, 15 capital ships emerging from quantum space like shards of starlight. Status report. She barked, sliding into her command chair. The holographic displays sprang to life around her, painting the room in an eerie blue glow. Lieutenant Walsh's fingers danced across his console. 3 carrier groups hit hard. Captain, the crystallines are using some kind of new weapon. It's tearing through our shields like they're not even there. Sarah's mind raced. The crystallines, or the Thoth as they called themselves, had been humanity's enemies for a decade. But this was different. Their attacks had always been precise, almost surgical. This was a massacre. Show me the weapon signatures, she ordered. The data scrolled before her eyes, and something clicked. These weren't normal crystalline energy patterns. They were erratic, desperate. A private channel crackled to life in her neural feed. Admiral Harrison's voice carried an edge she'd never heard before. Captain Chen, you are hereby ordered to execute Protocol Omega. Authorization code: Theta 970. Sarah's blood ran cold. Protocol Omega, the ultimate contingency, a quantum resonance weapon designed to shatter any crystalline structure within a light second. It would destroy the enemy fleet and every crystalline being aboard. Sir, she managed, request confirmation off. There's no time. Harrison cut her off. The weapon signatures you're seeing. The crystallines are dying. Some kind of plague is driving them mad. If we don't stop them here, they'll spread it across the entire sector. Execute Protocol Omega. Now. Sarah's hand hovered over the command key. The tactical display showed more enemy ships arriving, their movements increasingly erratic. Then she saw it, a pattern in their seemingly random attacks. They weren't trying to destroy the station. They were trying to reach it. Lieutenant, open a channel to the lid crystalline vessel, she ordered. Walsh stared at her. Captain, our orders. Do it. The channel opened, and for a moment, there was only static. Then a voice filled the command center, not through the speakers, but directly in their minds. A voice of crystal chimes and breaking glass. Help us. The next few moments would change everything. Against every regulation, every instinct drilled into her through years of combat, Sarah Chen made a choice. She broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Crystalline Fleet, power down your weapons. We will render assistance. That was the moment she first met Nexus. The being that would become her constant companion was aboard the lead ship, a scientist desperately trying to contain the quantum plague that was driving their people mad. Together, they found a solution, saved both fleets, and discovered that the plague itself was an unintended consequence of human quantum weapons research. And that, Sarah finished, her voice echoing through the tribunal chamber, is why I disobeyed Protocol Omega. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying your enemy. It's realizing they were never your enemy at all. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Admiral Harrison's face was a mask of barely contained rage, but Sarah noticed something else. Several of the judges were looking at Nexus with new interest as the crystalline being's surface rippled with patterns that told its own side of the story. You violated the chain of command. Harrison spat. You risked the entire sector on a hunch. No, sir. Sarah stood straighter. I risked my career to save lives, both human and crystalline, and I would do it again. Nexus floated forward, its crystalline form catching the light. When it spoke, its mental voice reached everyone in the chamber. Captain Chen speaks truth, but there is more. Show them, Sarah. Show them what we found. Sarah nodded and reached into her uniform pocket, withdrawing a small data crystal. Evidence, she said, of who really created the quantum plague, and why Protocol Omega was never about protecting humanity. It was about covering up a crime that would have led to genocide. The crystal glowed in her hand, and the real trial was about to begin. Beyond the stars, the data crystal's projection filled the tribunal chamber with a holographic display of classified military files, mission logs, and research data. But before Sarah could begin presenting the evidence, the chamber's lights suddenly flickered and died. Security breach. Someone shouted. Emergency lights bathed the room in red. Sarah felt Nexus's crystalline presence press closer, its surface pulsing with warning patterns. They come, Nexus's mental voice resonated. The ones who would silence us. The massive doors of the tribunal chamber burst open. Black-clad figures poured in, their armor absorbing light like liquid shadows. Sarah recognized the insignia on their shoulders. Section 0, the military's Deniable Operations Unit. Captain Chen, their leader's voice was digitally distorted. Surrender the data crystal and submit to immediate detention. Sarah's hand tightened around the crystal. Nexus. I remember, the crystalline being responded. Like the storm of Proxima. They moved as one, a dance practiced countless times over 3 years of partnership. Nexus's crystalline form expanded, creating a prismatic shield as Sarah dove behind the defense podium. The Section 0 operatives opened fire, their energy weapons splashing harmlessly against Nexus's lattice structure. Sarah's mind raced back to how they'd discovered the truth, each memory crystal clear as she pulled her service pistol. 3 months earlier, Deep Space Research Station Omega. This facility officially doesn't exist, Sarah had said as their stealth shuttle docked with the abandoned station. According to records, it was destroyed in a reactor accident 2 years ago. Nexus's crystalline form had shifted, adapting to the zero-gravity environment. Yet its quantum signature echoes across space. Here lies the source of our people's suffering. They'd found the laboratories intact. Empty specimen containers large enough to hold crystalline beings. Research logs detailing experiments in quantum resonance weapons. And something worse, proof that the quantum plague hadn't been an accident. It was a test. They needed to know if it would work, Sarah had whispered, reading through the classified files. Protocol Omega wasn't a defensive weapon. It was meant to be the final stage of an extinction protocol. Why? Nexus had asked. Why seek our destruction when cooperation offered so much more? The answer had come from the station commander's personal logs. The crystalline's natural ability to manipulate quantum fields had terrified certain factions within Earth's military leadership. They saw only 2 possibilities: complete control or complete elimination. Back in the present, Sarah fired her pistol with surgical precision, forcing the Section 0 operatives to take cover. The data crystal, she shouted to the judges who had taken shelter behind their elevated platform. It contains proof that Admiral Harrison and Section 0 deliberately engineered the quantum plague. They wanted to force the crystallines to attack, to justify using Protocol Omega. She's delusional. Harrison's voice cut through the chaos. This is exactly why the crystallines can't be trusted. They've corrupted her mind. Nexus's mental voice reached every person in the chamber. Observe. Its crystalline form began to resonate, projecting the contents of the data crystal directly into their minds. Not just data, but experiences. The pain of the infected crystallines. The truth behind the plague's creation. The conspiracy that had brought them to this moment. Several Section 0 operatives clutched their heads, overwhelmed by the psychic broadcast. Others lowered their weapons, the truth of their actions finally clear. Stop this immediately. Harrison drew his own weapon, aiming not at Sarah, but at Nexus. You're all being manipulated. The crystallines are the greatest threat humanity has ever faced. No, Admiral. Sarah stepped out from behind the podium, her voice steady. The greatest threat we face is fear. Fear of what's different. Fear of what we don't understand. You were so afraid of the crystallines' potential that you never stopped to consider they might become our greatest allies. The chamber doors opened again. This time, crystalline diplomats floated in, their forms radiant with power. Behind them came more human officers, one Sarah recognized from their secret network of supporters. Admiral Harrison, one of the human officers, stepped forward, her admiral's stripes gleaming. By order of the Joint Chiefs, you are relieved of command pending investigation into war crimes against the crystalline species. As Harrison and the Section 0 operatives were detained, Sarah felt Nexus's presence in her mind. The path of truth is never easy, the being observed, but it is always worth walking. Sarah watched as human and crystalline authorities began securing the chamber. We're not finished, she said. There's more to uncover, more people involved. Then we shall continue, Nexus replied. Together. The tribunal judges conferred briefly before the Chief Justice spoke. In light of these revelations, this court orders a full investigation. Captain Chin, you and your crystalline partner will be granted provisional authority to assist in this investigation. But be warned, there are those who will stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. The conspiracy ran deep, threading through both human and crystalline societies. But for the first time since this began, she felt hope. Not just for herself, but for both their species. Ready for the next chapter? She asked Nexus. The crystalline being's surface rippled with patterns of determination. Always. The hidden truth. The investigation facility deep beneath New Shanghai's surface hummed with activity. Holographic displays filled the air with cascading data streams, while human and crystalline analysts worked side by side, piecing together the conspiracy's full scope. Sarah stood before the central display, her neural implant processing information faster than any normal human could read it. Beside her, Nexus's crystalline form pulsed with deep blues and purples, their shared sign of concentration. Another weapons research facility, Sarah muttered, marking a point on the galactic map. That makes 7 we've confirmed. All officially decommissioned, all still active under Section 0 oversight. The pattern expands, Nexus observed, like fractal growth across space. Lieutenant Walsh, now their lead intelligence analyst, approached with a fresh data pad. Captain, you need to see this. We've decoded more of Harrison's private communications. He wasn't working alone. There's mention of something called Project Prism. Sarah's implant flagged the term immediately, cross-referencing it with their gathered intelligence. Project Prism. That's new. Nexus. The crystalline being's surface rippled with uncertainty. The term resonates with old frequencies. Before the plague, our scientists detected unusual quantum disturbances. We thought them natural phenomena. They weren't, were they? Sarah expanded the galactic map, highlighting the locations of the secret facilities. Look at the pattern they form. It's not random. These facilities are quantum focal points. Walsh's eyes widened. They're building something. Something big. Before Sarah could respond, the facility's alarms screamed to life. Red emergency lights pulsed as security barriers slammed into place. Sarah. Nexus's mental voice carried an urgency she'd never heard before. Quantum surge incoming. The air itself seemed to crystallize. Sarah felt her neural implant burning as reality twisted around them. Through the facility's reinforced windows, she saw the sky above New Shanghai fracturing like broken glass. It's not just an attack, she realized, horror dawning. It's a test run. Project Prism isn't a weapon. It's a quantum resonance cascade. They're trying to crystallize space itself. The implications hit her like a physical blow. By forcibly crystallizing space-time, they could theoretically control the fundamental forces of reality. But the cost would be catastrophic. Countless lives, both human and crystalline, caught in the transformation. We need to shut it down, Walsh said, fingers flying over his console. But these readings, the cascade is being controlled from multiple facilities. We'd need to hit them all simultaneously. Sarah turned to Nexus. Can your people help? We'd need a quantum link to coordinate the strikes. Yes, Nexus's form brightened with purpose. But Sarah, establishing such a link with multiple crystalline minds would place enormous strain on a human consciousness. Even with your neural implant, the risk is worth taking. Sarah finished. How long do we have? Walsh checked the readings. Based on the cascade's progression, maybe 6 hours before the effect becomes irreversible. Sarah nodded, her decision made. Get me the Joint Chiefs and contact the Crystalline High Council. Tell them. She managed a grim smile. Tell them humanity requests an alliance. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. Strike teams, human and crystalline working together, were assembled and briefed. The quantum link was established, connecting Sarah's consciousness to a network of crystalline minds. The pain was immediate and intense, but she forced herself to focus. Through the link, she could feel the other teams moving into position around each facility. More importantly, she could feel the deeper truth they'd uncovered. Project Prism wasn't just about controlling space-time. It was about evolution. Forced advancement of both species into something new, something its creators thought they could control. All teams in position, Walsh reported. Quantum cascade at 70% progression. Sarah stood at the command center, her consciousness split across multiple locations through the crystalline link. Blood trickled from her nose, but she barely noticed. Begin synchronized assault. Authorization code, Chen 001. The coordinated attack was like nothing in human or crystalline military history. Strike teams moved with perfect synchronization, their actions guided by the quantum link. Facility after facility fell as security systems failed against the combined might of both species' technology. But in the final facility, they found more than they expected. As Sarah's consciousness touched the quantum core of Project Prism, she understood the full scope of the conspiracy. It wasn't just military leaders or scared politicians behind this. It was something older, something that had been pushing humans and crystallines toward conflict for decades. Walsh, she gasped, fighting to maintain the quantum link. Get everyone out. All facilities. Now. Sarah, Nexus's voice seemed to come from a great distance. What did you see? Through the pain, through the strain of maintaining the quantum link, Sarah forced the words out. Project Prism wasn't ours. The technology. It's not human or crystalline. Someone's been manipulating both our species. And they're still here. As if in response to her words, the quantum cascade suddenly reversed. The sky above New Shanghai began to heal, the fractures in space-time sealing themselves. But Sarah knew this wasn't a victory. It was a retreat. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was a pattern in the quantum field, a signature unlike anything human or crystalline, a message or perhaps a warning, written in the language of space-time itself. When she awoke hours later in the medical bay, Nexus was beside her, its crystalline form dimmed with concern. Did we stop it? She asked, her voice hoarse. The cascade is contained, but Sarah, the pattern you saw, the true architects of this conflict, they are still out there. Sarah tried to sit up, her muscles protesting. Then we'll find them. Together. Yes, Nexus agreed, its form brightening slightly. But first, you must rest. The next phase of our journey requires strength. As Sarah lay back, her mind was already working on the puzzle. Someone, or something, had been orchestrating events from the shadows, pushing two species toward mutual destruction. But why? The answer was out there, hidden in the quantum patterns of space itself. Echoes of the void. The quantum analysis chamber in the Crystalline High Council's headquarters made Earth's most advanced labs look primitive. Crystalline structures grew from floor to ceiling, each one processing vast amounts of data through quantum computing matrices that operated on principles humans were only beginning to understand. Sarah stood at the center of it all. Her neural implant interfaced with the crystalline systems through Nexus. The strain of connecting to alien technology was less now. Either she was getting stronger, or her mind was adapting. Perhaps both. "Show me the pattern again," she requested. The quantum signature they detected during the Project Prism incident appeared in the air before her, its complex geometries rotating slowly. After 3 weeks of analysis, they'd determined it wasn't just a message, it was a key. "The frequencies match nothing in our archives," the Crystalline High Chancellor observed, its massive form dominating one side of the chamber. "Yet they feel familiar." "Like an echo," Sarah agreed. "Something old reaching across time." She turned to Walsh, who was coordinating with a team of human scientists. "What about the archaeological data?" Walsh nodded, bringing up new displays. "We found references to similar patterns in ruins on 17 different worlds. The oldest dates back over 50,000 years. Whatever left these marks, they were here long before either of our species achieved spaceflight. And they have been watching," Nexus added, "guiding our development, our conflicts." Sarah felt a chill despite the chamber's regulated temperature. "The question is why? What do they gain from pushing us toward mutual destruction?" Before anyone could respond, the chamber's quantum matrices flared with sudden energy. The pattern they'd been studying began to pulse, its geometries shifting into new configurations. "It's responding," the High Chancellor's mental voice carried notes of alarm. But to what? Reality twisted. Sarah felt it first through her neural implant. A sensation like space itself being folded. Then the chamber's far wall simply vanished, revealing a void filled with crystalline structures that shouldn't exist in normal spacetime. "Defensive positions," Sarah shouted, but she already knew conventional weapons would be useless against whatever was coming. Through the breach stepped a figure that defied description. It seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, part energy, part crystal, part void. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in our minds, ancient and powerful. "We are the architects. You have discovered our work before its completion." Sarah stepped forward, positioning herself between the entity and her allies. "Your work? You mean manipulating our species into nearly destroying each other." The beam's form shifted, fragments of reality bending around it. "We are the shapers of evolution. For millions of years, we have guided species toward transcendence through conflict. Those who survive emerge stronger, unified. Unified through warfare." Walsh's voice shook with anger. "How many civilizations have you destroyed with these games?" "Many," the architect acknowledged without remorse. "But those who transcend become like us, beings of pure quantum consciousness, free from the limitations of physical form." Nexus moved to Sarah's side, its crystalline structure resonating with barely contained energy. "You would force evolution through genocide. This is not transcendence, it is extinction." The architect's form pulsed. "Your combined resistance to Project Prism was unexpected. Perhaps you are ready for a different path, or perhaps you require more motivation." The breach began to widen, reality peeling the way to reveal more crystalline structures, more architects. Sarah felt something shift in the quantum field. The same energy signature they detected during Project Prism, but vastly more powerful. They weren't just being invaded. The architects were trying to force both species to transcend, ready or not. Nexus, she whispered, an idea forming. The quantum link. If we can connect everyone, the strain would be enormous, Nexus warned. Beyond anything we've attempted. But if it works, we can show them. Show the architects that true evolution comes from cooperation, not conflict. The High Chancellor's voice joined their conversation. We stand with you, Captain Chen. All of us. Sarah felt the quantum link expanding, connecting not just to the crystallines in the chamber, but to others throughout their space. Through their shared connection, human consciousness began to merge with crystalline quantum awareness. Not forced evolution, but willing cooperation. The architect paused, its form fluctuating. What are you? Showing you what real transcendence looks like. Sarah answered, her consciousness now part of something far larger than herself. Through the link, she could feel millions of minds, human and crystalline, united in purpose. The quantum matrices in the chamber began to pulse in sync with their shared consciousness. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as two species, once enemies, demonstrated a kind of evolution the architects had never considered. This is not the way, the architect insisted, but there was uncertainty in its mental voice. No, Sarah agreed, blood trickling from her nose as she maintained the massive quantum link. It's not your way. It's better. The chamber filled with light as human determination met crystalline quantum mastery, creating something entirely new. Something that would change both species forever, not through force, but through choice. And the architects watched, for the first time in millions of years, as their carefully laid plans gave way to something they had never predicted. Hope. Transcendence of choice. The quantum link stretched across space, connecting millions of minds in a delicate web of consciousness. Sarah felt each one, human and crystalline alike, their thoughts and emotions merging into something greater than the sum of its parts. Blood ran freely from her nose now, and the strain of maintaining the connection threatened to tear her mind apart. But she held on. The architect's crystalline forms shifted and writhed, their ancient consciousness struggling to comprehend what they were witnessing. Around them, reality itself seemed to bend and flex, responding to the unprecedented union of human and crystalline minds. This defies all patterns. The lead architect's thoughts resonated through the chamber. In millions of years, no species has chosen this path. Because you never gave them the chance, Sarah managed through gritted teeth. Through the quantum link, she felt Nexus's strength supporting her, keeping her consciousness from fragmenting under the immense strain. You were so focused on forcing evolution that you missed the most powerful force in the universe. Choice. Nexus completed her thought, its crystalline form pulsing with shared purpose. The power to choose cooperation over conflict, to grow together rather than destroy each other. The High Chancellor's vast consciousness joined their merged voice. We are not your experiments, architects. We are not pieces in your grand design. We are living beings, choosing our own path. The quantum matrices throughout the chamber began to resonate with their unified will. Walsh's voice came from somewhere distant. The energy readings, they're off the charts. Whatever's happening, it's spreading beyond the chamber, beyond Earth. He was right. Sarah could feel it through the link, a wave of quantum change rippling out through space. But unlike Project Prism's forced crystallization, this was something organic, natural. The next step in evolution, chosen freely by both species. You would reject our guidance. The architect's forms flickered with what might have been uncertainty. The path to transcendence isn't a path if you're forced to walk it, Sarah interrupted. Real transcendence comes from understanding, from choosing to reach beyond what you are to help others, to grow together. Through the quantum link, she felt something shifting. The combined consciousness of humans and crystallines was changing reality itself, not through force, but through unity. The very fabric of space-time responded to their shared will, creating something the architects had never imagined possible. Look, Nexus directed their attention to the quantum field surrounding them. See what we have become. The air shimmered with new possibilities. Human innovation merged with crystalline quantum mastery, creating patterns of reality that even the architects had never dreamed possible. It wasn't the sterile transcendence of pure energy beings, but something richer, more complex, more alive. The lead architect moved closer, its form rippling with what might have been wonder. This is unprecedented. You have found another way. We've found our way, Sarah corrected. She could feel her consciousness beginning to fade, the strain of maintaining the quantum link finally taking its toll. But before the darkness claimed her, she had one last thing to say. The question is, what will you choose? The world went black. When Sarah awoke, she was lying in a medical bay unlike any she'd seen before. Crystal and technology merged seamlessly, a physical representation of what their species had become. Nexus was beside her, its form glowing with quiet contentment. They left, it informed her before she could ask. The architects, but not before sharing something with us. Knowledge, understanding, a gift, freely given. They learned, Sarah smiled weakly. After millions of years, they finally learned. As did we all. The High Chancellor's voice came from nearby. The quantum link changed us, Captain Chen. Not into the beings the architects wanted us to become, but into something of our own making. Something new. Sarah sat up carefully, noting how the crystalline patterns in the air responded to her thoughts, not just through her neural implant, but through some deeper connection. How long was I out? 3 days, Walsh answered, entering the room. He looked different. They all did. Humanity and the crystallines were no longer separate species working together. They had become something more, something that chose to exist between flesh and crystal, thought, and quantum reality. The changes are still spreading. Not everyone has accepted them, but those who do. It's amazing, Sarah. We can see reality itself. And the architects. Gone to seek other species, Nexus replied. But this time, not to force evolution. To offer choice. Your choice, Sarah. Our choice. It changed everything. Sarah stood, marveling at how the quantum field danced around her. They had done more than stop a conspiracy or prevent a war. They had shown ancient beings a new way forward, had proven that true transcendence couldn't be forced. It had to be chosen, shaped by understanding and cooperation. So, she smiled at her companions, old and new. What do we choose now? Now. Nexus's form brightened with possibility. Now we explore. Together. There are more mysteries in the universe, more choices to make. And we face them not as separate species, but as one. The quantum field rippled with potential, with futures yet to be chosen. Sarah Chen, no longer just human, but not quite crystalline, looked out at the universe with new eyes. Eyes that could see the quantum dance of reality itself and the infinite possibilities that came with the power of choice. It wasn't the end of their story. In many ways, it was just the beginning. But it was their beginning, chosen freely, shaped by understanding and cooperation. And that made all the difference. The end.